Bone health. What is it? Issues with conventional care. Things to avoid. Acid alkaline. Omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. And alkaline balance. Now, bone health is essentially having strong, healthy bones that are able to function properly and are well mineralized throughout our entire lives. They are strong, sturdy, and well balanced. This is completely possible if we take on the right practices throughout our whole lives. Now, what is the issue with conventional care? Well, under these drugs, they have something called biphosphonates. Now, these drugs can only be taken up to 10 years and have been significantly shown to increase the risk of cancer. They increase the levels of metastasis in the body, which is the spreading of cancer, and also reduces calcium and vitamin D. Now, on the DEXA scan, these bones may be shown to be more hard and dense, but the problem is they're actually more brittle because they're not actually having the right nutrients in them. They bind to nutrients such as calcium, magnesium, and silica, make them insoluble. Now, it's kind of like what fluoride does to the bones, like makes them kind of more dense, but also makes them more brittle at the same time, because with that, it blocks an enzyme that produces collagen, which is needed for the bone strength and elasticity. Now, what are some things that actually lower bone density? Number one is going to be grains. Now, grains have the same ability to kind of bind to nutrients, make them inert. They're also known as anti-nutrients, so lectins, phytates. They also have oxalic acid, which leaches calcium, magnesium, and iron. They also have phytic acid, which leaches magnesium, copper, chromium, iron, zinc, and niacin. Lastly, they contain lectins and trypsin inhibitors, which can bind to the intestinal tract and block out the necessary amino acids. Now, gluten is something that we know about, but what does it do? Now, gluten activates a protein in our intestinal tract called zonulin. Now, zonulin essentially is responsible for leaky gut. Zonulin is known to tear apart and zonulin can get activated through stress, infections, and anti-nutrients such as gluten. Another thing in there is that it has amylopectin, which makes you over-secrete leptin, which lowers bone density. And this happens by lowering bone formation. Now, all these things, these grains, they can actually be consumed, if they're done properly through like what our ancestors did, which is soaking and sprouting, which significantly decreases all these anti-nutrients, but a lot of people don't do this. Now, when it comes to acid-alkaline balance, the body's always working to stay in balance. So when you consume like these acid-alkaline foods, they have very minimal impact because the body always does a great job of doing that. But the problem is we become too acid via a variety of reasons. The body takes the minerals from the bones to kind of balance it out. So that's a problem, of course. Now, there are certain organs that need to be acidic, like the gut, of course. So if you have an alkaline gut, then you're going to be getting infections all the time. So that's not good. So in terms of nutritional status, like bones are 50% amino acids. So eating sources of essential amino acids on a regular basis, like meat, is a great idea. Not having enough protein leads to low bone density, while having sufficient protein leads to more bone density. Now, if we talk about the omega-3 to omega-6 ratios, what are these? So these are polyunsaturated fats, and these are very important fats, also known as essential fats. So omega-3s are usually the anti-inflammatory, while omega-6s are the pro-inflammatory. Now, that's just an oversimplification, but it's basically what it is. The ideal ratio that we want to have is 1:1 to a 1:4 omega-3 to 6 ratio. But the problem is a lot of us have like a 1:20 omega-3 to 6 ratio, which is the basis for chronic disease and inflammation. And this is due to like high amounts of vegetable oils, which we've talked about many times. So, of course, high amounts of inflammation lead to more acidic environment. So keeping these ratios in line via high quality oils, whole foods diet, is a good place to start. We can further break down DHA and EPA for the omega-3s, or docosahexaenoic acid, and eicosapentaenoic acid. So DHA is usually for the brain, and EPA is kind of more for the joints. And omega-6s can be broken down into linoleic acid and arachidonic acid. Now, linoleic acid is the one that's usually used most of the time. Then we can get to micronutrients, and micronutrients are just nutrients that are needed in small amounts. So those are usually measured in milligrams or micrograms, And macronutrients are needed in large amounts. So usually those are in grams. So the micronutrients, those are like vitamins, aminos, we got antioxidants, minerals, all that. While the macros are proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Some people would add in other things like fiber and water, but just stick to the three. But when it comes to bone health, we really need to get in those minerals and those micronutrients. Another thing is that the micronutrients enable the macronutrients in order to do their job. So everything is in synergy, which is why I like eating whole foods as opposed to isolated supplements. They have their place, but getting things in synergy, because like food works upon each other. Like there are bioconstituents, which are things that activate the nutrients within them. So everything is kind of packaged up properly in nature.